Welcome to Episode 2 of Season 1. Henley Point is shaping the future of podcasting with projects like the second edition of Podcasting Explained, their inclusion-focused partnership with Connect for Life, and storytelling ventures such as The Point. This episode highlights their leadership in adapting to technology, empowering diverse creators, and creating impactful narratives across platforms. This episode also features guest co-hosts Eric and Steve, both of whom are AI-generated. In fact, this entire episode provides listeners with a clear-cut example of the impact of AI on podcast production and content creation. Amazing? Creepy? You decide.
Now, let's get to the point.
You know, it's kind of hard to believe just how much has changed in podcasting over the past few years. And speaking of change, there's big news. Podcasting Explained is getting a second edition. Can you believe it's been almost 4 years since the first one came out?
Yeah, I think it really highlights just how fast things are moving in this space. When the first edition was released back in 2021, we were looking at a very different landscape. Companies were budding, some of them consolidating, and others just, disappearing altogether.
Exactly. And now we've got huge players stepping in, YouTube officially throwing its hat in the ring, for one, and then there's the rise of AI, which is kind of reshaping how podcasts are produced, distributed, even consumed. It's like we're in the middle of this massive evolution, right?
Absolutely. And what's really exciting about this second edition is the inclusion of new voices, professionals who bring this incredible range of perspectives. That's going to add so much depth to the book. It's not just about the technical changes we've seen, it's also about the cultural and creative shifts in the industry.
Yeah, totally agree. It feels like the heart of the project is really about capturing that innovation. I mean, look at Henley Point. They're not just chronicling these changes. They're right there, adapting, pushing boundaries, leading conversations on what's next.
Right. They're setting a standard, which is something I really admire. Adapting to an evolving media landscape takes, a lot of vision. It's not just about keeping up. It's about really understanding where things are headed and making sure you're ready to meet that future. And that's what I see Henley Point doing.
Exactly. It's like they're not just part of the evolution. They're driving it. And honestly, that's what makes this second edition of Podcasting Explained so valuable. It's not just an update, it's like a spotlight on where podcasting is going next. Speaking of Henley Point driving the evolution of podcasting, one project that really showcases their vision is the Connect for Life podcast. It's this incredible initiative that puts the stories of people with disabilities front and center, right?
Yeah. And it's not just about sharing those stories. It's about creating a platform for empowerment. It's their voices, their experiences, and the visibility they deserve. Honestly, I think this podcast showcases what's possible when inclusivity is prioritized in media.
Completely agree. And get this, Henley Point didn't just help produce it, they did it as a donation. 11 episodes, all in just 2 months in late 2024. That's no small feat.
Not at all. It's a reflection of how much they believe in the mission. And, Connect for Life isn't just creating content. They've got this groundbreaking model for skills development, for podcasting, broadcasting, all designed for people with disabilities. It's really setting the bar for inclusive media training.
Right, it's like they're proving there's no boundary to where talent can thrive. And honestly, I can't think of a better example of how media can be used to empower people and transform narratives around disability.
Exactly. They've built something that's not just innovative, It's impactful. It's a model others could, and probably should, look to replicate if we're serious about inclusion in media.
It's amazing how Henley Point has this unique gift for storytelling, right? Whether they're empowering voices through podcasts like Connect for Life or capturing unforgettable images, they just excel. Take My Backyard in the City, for instance. It's this stunning photo essay that celebrates urban wildlife in Toronto. Who would have thought a backyard could become so captivating?
Right. And the way they showcase those stories, it's not just about the visuals or the facts. It's about crafting something that feels meaningful, that makes you stop and think. And when you look at something like A Harmony of Worlds, what you see that same commitment. It's a book, sure, but it's this expanded edition with photos, interviews, companion material, and it's storytelling on multiple levels.
Oh, absolutely. They're not just producing content, they're creating experiences. And I think that's key, because let's face it, we live in a world saturated with media. But Henley Point seems to ask, how can we make this resonate? Really stick with people?
Exactly. And it's their cross-platform approach that really stands out to me. They're bridging those gaps between podcasts, books, digital content. It's all interconnected, like with the Point podcast, for example. They're not just highlighting strategies from leaders in advocacy and policy. They're creating this broad dialogue that draws you in and leaves you inspired.
Yeah. The Point is a great example of their reach. It's professionals, from business leaders to nonprofit execs, sharing real, actionable insights. And it's so refreshing to see a platform dedicated to, well, pushing the conversation forward.
Totally. And I think what makes it all work is that Henley Point understands the power of connection. They're not just telling stories for the sake of it. They're building bridges, creating communities, and fostering a sense of shared purpose.
You know, Steve, it's hard not to feel inspired when you think about how Henley Point is fostering those connections we were just discussing, building bridges and creating a sense of shared purpose. It's more than just pushing boundaries. They're setting a new standard for what storytelling can achieve.
Absolutely. When you look at what they've achieved, from Podcasting Explained to Connect for Life, and their innovative storytelling through books and photography, these aren't just projects. They're examples of what's possible when you combine creativity, technology, and, well, heart.
Exactly. And they've got this knack for making you see the bigger picture, you know? Like how storytelling doesn't just share information. It connects people, sparks change, and leaves lasting impact. That's something to aspire to, I think, whether you're a podcaster, a writer, or just someone trying to share your voice.
And I think Henley Point illustrates a lesson, not just for creators, but for all of us. That it's not just about keeping up with trends. It's about shaping the narrative, contributing meaningfully to it, and making sure that every project reflects a sense of purpose.
Couldn't agree more. And hey, if anyone listening today is thinking about starting something, whether it's a podcast, a book, or any creative venture, just remember, the tools and opportunities out there are, well, limitless. Henley Point shows exactly what's possible when you bring your ideas to life.
Right? And more importantly, you don't have to go it alone. The resources, the communities, they're out there if you take the step forward. And I think that's a pretty great note to end on, don't you?
Absolutely. And that's all for today, folks. Thanks for joining us. It's always a pleasure diving into these conversations, and we hope you're leaving with as much inspiration as we are.
Until next time, take care and keep creating.
The Point is a podcast production of Henley Point. For more information, visit henleypoint.ca.